Hello there. It's good to have you join us on NAPTIP On The Move. I'm Angela Agwigi. The 16 days of activism was very eventful. NAPTIP and stakeholders organized a series of events, including community dialogue, sensitization campaigns, skill acquisition, and more. Our package today will bring you sights and sounds of these events. Stay with NAPTIP On The Move.
The 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, an annual global event from the 25th November to 10th December, was commemorated by NAPTIP in collaboration with the National Human Rights Commission, the Federal Capital Territory Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team, the Ford Foundation and Justice Research Institute. The series of events commenced with a walk from the Cyprian Ekwensi Center for Arts and Culture, Area 10, led by the Director General of NAPTIP, Dr. Fatima Waziri Azi.
The walk is part of NAPTIP's 16 days commemoration against sexual and gender-based violence. It's basically to create awareness in the FCT and just to scale and amplify preventive measures, so that when people see something, they say something, you speak out against sexual and gender-based violence, you don't harbor abusers, you don't become complicit in these crimes.
The over 6-kilometer walk from Area 10 to Area 11 through Tafawa Balewa Road to the Central Business District terminated at the Unity Fountain, Maitama, where stakeholders and partners delivered goodwill messages.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime is happy to be part of this 16 days of activism to end violence against women and girls. This also in line with the United Nations Convention Against Transnational Organized Crime, especially the protocol to prevent, suppress, and punish trafficking in persons, especially of women and children. Vulnerability has different dimensions, and the way it affects women and girls is different from the way it affects men. Even though both men and women are exposed to gender-based violence from their partners or from their spouses or from familiar people. But on this day, as we kick off the 16 days of activism to end violence against women and girls, the special focus is on women and girls because of the vulnerability which they experience either in the family and in their workspace or amongst peers and amongst friends. So let us be our brothers' keepers. Let us be our sisters' keepers. If we are seeing any woman or girl being exploited in any form, you know where to call. Kindly report to NAPTIP.
The national community has observed the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence since 1991. We start on the 25th of November, and the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women until December 10th, which is the Human Rights Day. This year, the UN marks the 16 days under the theme Unite, Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls. But this year, 2022, the FCT, Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team, is encouraging the general public to get involved. Studies have shown that less than 40% of women and girls who experience violence seek help of any sort. And we are calling for the support and empowerment of survivors to speak out, to amplify the voices of survivors, and to contribute our quota towards preventing and reducing the occurrence of violence against women and girls. We'll continue to provide support for all survivors and advocate for the protection of the rights and welfare of women and children in the FCT.
The Director General of NAPTIP addressed the press.
We all know that, today begins the commencement of the 16 days activism against gender-based violence. And the reason why it was started is for us to remember and commit 16 days in a year to commemorate, to speak against, and to amplify, issues of sexual and gender-based violence. We know that this is something which is not just predominant to the Nigerian setting. It is a global problem. For us in NAPTIP, in 10 months, that's from January to October, we have received a total of 1,100 complaints from the general public in the FCT. And this is a combination of complaints that we receive via our call center and also walk-in complaints. This is minus the complaints that I personally receive via text and complaints that people drop via our various social media handles. So it is our responsibility as individuals, as human beings, to speak against issues of sexual and gender-based violence. Don't isolate yourself. Don't look away. If you see your neighbor abusing his wife, abusing his children, abusing his help, because we see a lot of cases where guardians, even mothers, then people who abuse their house helps. Right now in NAPTIP, we have a case of a young girl. I think she's about 12-year-old. A pot of hot oil was poured on her. We have a case like that. Just report. Call NAPTIP. We have a short code 627. We have another toll-free number 0703 00000203. And do not be in the habit of protecting abusers. That person might be abusing somebody today. Tomorrow that person might be abusing you or might be abusing somebody you know. We should stop being reactive. We should be proactive. Please, women and girls are dying. And we should always remember that any domestic or sexual violence case is a potential murder case.
She also revealed some of the challenges in implementing the VAP Act in the FCT.
When it comes to prosecuting the crime of violence against persons, most especially crime of rape or incest, we know how difficult it is. But for us in NAPTIP, so far we've recorded about 14 convictions. We've recorded 4 convictions just in 2022. And right now we have about 84 cases in court. And some of the challenges that we have in prosecuting cases like this is, number one, people don't speak up. And when they speak up, they bring the matter to NAPTIP. We start to investigate. We file this matter in court. Before you know, they are writing to withdraw their case. And most times, the reason why people write to withdraw cases like this is because of societal pressure, because of family pressure. So in as much as society might think NAPTIP is not doing what it needs to do, or our collaborating partners are not doing what they need to do, we also need to recognize the human factor, which NAPTIP has no control over. A woman who is being beaten by her husband reports to us, we do our job. But when this same woman comes and says, oh, I don't want him to go to jail, I don't want him to lose his job, I have to withdraw, there's nothing we can do. But when it has to do with children, it has to do with minors, of course, it has nothing to do with the parents. We stand for that child. It now becomes a case of federal government of Nigeria versus
the perpetrator. So NAPTIP is doing what it needs to do. The public also needs to do what they have to do.
Security agencies, FCT Social Development Secretariat, non-governmental organizations, civil society organizations, directors and officers of NAPTIP participated in the walk against gender-based violence. Done with the walk, the sensitization for traditional rulers, community leaders, clerics and the general public with NAPTIP protection officers began in earnest in the 6 area councils of the FCT, starting with Abaji, Gwagwalada, and Kuje. At the Abuja Municipal Area Council, traditional rulers, officials of FCT, AMAC and other stakeholders were in attendance. Some of these stakeholders and traditional rulers present delivered goodwill messages.
The sensitization campaign workshop today is both timely and appropriate for this season. The partners understand the critical role community leaders and activists can and will play in eliminating entrenched cultural practices and social norms that have enabled and sustained violence against persons, particularly women and girls. Working with organizations like NAPTIP and the FCT Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team, the community leaders and women activists present today will be better equipped to identify those interlocking factors that have driven harmful behaviors within the community. The new knowledge will assist in curating advocacy campaigns and messaging to address these driving factors and end violence against women and girls in their respective communities. I must acknowledge and thank Ford Foundation, who provided support for this community engagement workshop through the project Strengthening the Capacity of the Nigeria Police Force and the Federal Capital Territory Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team to effectively respond to violence against women and girls, being implemented by Justice Research Institute, the National Human Rights Commission and the Office of the Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Tabitha Empowerment Center, we've been partnering with NAPTIP right from inception. And before I proceed, I want to register my sincere appreciation to the DG and her team for a very wonderful work they have been doing in FCT and even in the whole nation. We are partnering with them because Tabitha Empowerment Center is a non-governmental, not-for-profit organization that is committed to eliminating domestic violence. And we've really been doing a lot to make sure that sexual and gender-based violence is being eliminated in the society. It's not really easy, but again, we are trying our best. And I must say that NAPTIP, they have always been there for us. Each time we beckon on them, they come in, they respond quickly. And they have been encouraging us seriously, making sure that we all let it be a collective responsibility as far as sexual gender-based violence is concerned to eliminate it totally.
The Association of Traditional Leaders Wives. We have 17 chiefdom in FCT, and we put heads together to see how we can address this. Everybody knows it's not easy to pull the chiefs out, especially the wives. In olden days, you hardly see the chief wife out. But in this condition that is happening in society now, will we continue folding our arm? No. And since we see our big sister here to give us a serious support, I know since we partner with her, in fact, it has been a pride to me, especially in my community in FCT. You cannot mess any student up. You cannot mess anybody up. In fact, some people keep on running. I told them, if you like, enter well. If you like, dig anywhere and enter. NAPTIP will catch you. And it happened.
I want to welcome the Director General of NAPTIP and her team. Life is patient. In whatever we do, we must be strong. It is not enough to just do something. We must do things right, just as it is being done here today. I want to appreciate NAPTIP and assure you of our support. If we notice anything that is in line with your mandate, we will inform you. God bless Nigeria.
Delivering her opening remarks, the DG of NAPTIP, Dr. Fatima Waziri Aziz, spoke on the implementation of the VAP Act in the FCT and reiterated the agency's commitment to ending sexual and gender-based violence.
This community dialogue is part of our activities for the 16 days of activism, and we felt it was important, rather than bring everyone to the city, we felt it was important for us to go into the community and interact with the members of the community. Most of the crime of domestic and sexual violence happens at the community level. As such, we must continue to target those cultural norms that makes this crime fester, and we cannot do it with the support of everyone here, with the support of everyone in this room, which is why this sensitization is taking place today. And as you know, leaders at different levels in your community, you are all fundamental allies in breaking this barrier, in stopping harmful cultural practices that we see happen around us every day. The rate of violence against women in the FCT is really alarming. In 10 months, that's from January to October, the agency has received 1,100 reports on domestic and sexual violence just in the FCT, and out of which 126 reports were investigated. Out of these 126 reports, 26 cases were resolved via mediation, alternative dispute resolution, so mediation, reconciliation, and arbitration. Then out of these 126 reports that we investigated, 54 reported cases were withdrawn. Then we currently have 84 cases in court, and we have secured 4 convictions just in 2022. And majority of the cases reported from AMAC includes spousal battery. Then child abuse, we've seen a lot of child abuse around AMAC. We see a lot of abandonment, where parents abandon their children.
Helen Emuze of the Public Enlightenment Department of NAPTIP made a presentation on the responsibility of community leaders in preventing gender-based violence in the FCT, highlighting the provisions of the VAP Act, adverse effects of sexual and gender-based violence, efforts of NAPTIP, and victims' access to justice. The interactive session was engaging, as questions and comments were addressed by the DG, NAPTIP, and other stakeholders. The sensitization at the Buari Area Council started with the tour of the Awaitu Sexual Assault Referral Center by the Director General and her team, led by the Center Councillor Olabode Adebole and his team. From the Sexual Assault Referral Center at the Buari General Hospital, the NAPTIP team proceeded to the sensitization venue. The representative of the chairman, Buari Area Council, welcomed all present. Stakeholders, as usual, delivered goodwill messages.
Today we call on both women groups,
the traditional leaders, the Christian faith organizations, and the Muslim faith organizations for us to unite together to fight this menace in FCT. What do? We have to build what we call sustainable community approach. How do we do that? By identifying all the stakeholders that are here in the community that can help us, just like what our DG have told us. You have to identify the traditional leaders, the CSOs, the NGOs, the union groups. Everybody matters in this issue because we have to fight as one body to be able to eradicate SGBV in our community.
The DG NAPTIP addressed the forum.
We are responsible for implementing the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. You see, it says violence against persons. It did not say violence against women. So it is a law that covers women, that covers men, and covers children. For Buhari, we'll see that most of the cases that are reported here in Buhari, there's forced isolation. We also get a lot of reports of forced isolation. There's separation, then also spousal battery. Beginning of this year, in NAPTIP, we trained and we deployed 12 protection officers. So 2 protection officers in each area council. And the reason why we did that was because this law that I spoke about, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, made it mandatory for NAPTIP to deploy these protection officers. And the reason why these protection officers were deployed to the area council is to work with the traditional rulers, work with the area council, work with the police, and work with the community. They are like your friends to assist in any form of, if you want information. Sometimes some people, when they witness something, they don't know who to call, they don't know where to go, they don't know what to do. So it is the job of that protection officer to guide you.
Then an interactive session, followed by a vote of thanks. Finally, the unveiling of the billboard at Buhari Area Council. The sensitization campaigns for the 16 days of activism was also extended to the deaf community as NAPTIP and the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, NCPWD, in collaboration with the European Union-funded Rule of Law and Anti-Corruption Programme, ROLAC, implemented by the British Council, organized a one-day awareness program for the deaf community in the FCT on the content of the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act of 2015. Director, Legal and Prosecution Department of NAPTIP, Hassan Tahir, welcomed the participants. The technical session began in earnest with presentations on the overview of the VAP Act by Ijeoma Amugo, NAPTIP Director, VAP Department. Overview of the Discrimination Against Persons with Disability by Marcus Okorua, Senior Social Welfare Officer of the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. And the Rights of Survivors of SGBV by Magnus Eme, Head, NAPTIP Rapid Response Squad. The sessions were very engaging as participants raised several observations, questions and comments which were addressed by the officials of NAPTIP. As the program came to an end, Dr. Veronica Olasi made the vote of thanks, while some participants commended NAPTIP for its disability inclusivity.
I feel very happy and appreciate Director General of NAPTIP for organizing this program for the deaf community. We are very happy with you, Director General, and we are proud of you. You are the first organization to organize this special program for the deaf community. Our eyes are open now. We thank you. We have learnt a lot and we are happy to go and report back to our communities and our area councils in Abuja. Thank you for this, and we promise you that we will teach our deaf community that we left behind in all the area councils. Director General, Note that we deaf community love you and we thank you so much for this program. Happy International Day of Persons with Disabilities. Thank you, we love you.
I would like to thank NAPTIP for their effort in organizing this program. I would like to appreciate your effort in bringing this program especially for the deaf community. Now we have a sense of belonging. We have learned a lot. This program will really have a positive influence in our deaf community and persons with disabilities. I hope NAPTIP partners will also include us in their program. We thank NAPTIP for their support and efforts towards the deaf community.
The final event to mark the 16 days of activism is the Survivors Forum, organized by NAPTIP and partners for survivors from the FCT Sexual and Gender-Based Violence Response Team and the NAPTIP Shelter at the NAPTIP Training Resource Center. This time, it is a skill acquisition workshop which commenced with the opening remarks from the Director General, Dr. Fatima Waziri Azi. This was followed by goodwill messages from partners. Then, pre-training assessment by Lorenta Igor, Technical Assistant, DG, NAPTIP. Then the technical session with a presentation on overcoming post-traumatic stress disorder with a positive mental attitude by Idara Brown of Counseling and Rehabilitation Department of NAPTIP. A survivor's life experience by Grace Sunday. The practical sessions were quite interesting and engaging as the resource person, Obiageli Ezeifeka, engaged the survivors and participants in the process and production of liquid soap and peanut burger. Indeed, the series of activities and events organized to mark the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence were impactful, instructive and life-changing. Support NAPTIP to put an end to gender-based violence for a peaceful and violence-free nation. For more inquiries and support or to report cases of suspected human trafficking, violence against persons and child abuse, please call NAPTIP hotline 0703 0000203 or the short code 627 or email us info@naptip.gov.ng. Visit our website www.naptip.gov.ng. Follow us on our social media platforms at NAPTIP Nigeria or watch our videos on YouTube.
Our time is up, but I must thank you for watching and urge you to keep a date with us, same time next week. I'm Angela Agbegi. Bye for now.